The difference between this war and every other war that I've been to is the difference between a flood and a tsunami. The scale, the intensity, the ferocity, the number of wounded, the fact that 50% of all of the wounded are children is beyond anything that I had ever witnessed in terms of ferocity and in terms of the number of patients coming in on a daily basis. 50% of my operating list every day would be children. So that was between 10 and 12 cases a day, half of whom were children. And these were devastating injuries, life-altering injuries, either amputations with loss of limbs or severely disfiguring facial injuries. And it's really, with 10,000 children killed so far in this war, almost 1% of Gaza's children's population, it felt like a war on children. It felt like every day you would see more and more of these kids being brought in. And this is just the physical injury, not the mental health injury. And a lot of these children had, in addition to the injury, have lost families, have lost parents. We had at one stage at Shifa Hospital 120 kids who were the sole survivors of their families on multiple generations and were wounded and had no one to look after them. So my testimony at the ICC will be around what I witnessed as a survivor of the attack on Al Ahli Baptist Hospital, but also in terms of what I saw in terms of injuries and in terms of weapons used during the whole of the 43 days I was in Gaza. To give evidence to what I saw, the kinds of weapons, the enormity of the attacks on civilians, the use of white phosphorus on fleeing civilians from Shati camp, all of the things that I witnessed in 43 days, all of them constitute at some stage war crimes. Absolutely, the scale, the fact that whole neighborhoods were being wiped out, the fact that fleeing civilians were targeted with phosphorus bombs, the use of fragmentation bombs against civilians, the denial of health care through the blockade, the attacks on hospitals, all of these things constitute war crimes. And so very soon after the war, we started to run out of things, and towards the end, even basic things like ketamine that we use for anesthetic, and eventually all of anesthetic medication ran out. But basic things like disinfectant, specialist gauze for burns patients, all of these were running out, and they weren't replaced because of the blockade. When I came back to the UK, I was asked by the Metropolitan Police's war crimes unit to give evidence to them with regards to being a survivor of the attack on Al Ahli Baptist Hospital, but also what I saw at Shifa Hospital. Well, for me as a doctor, I owe it to my patients, not only to make sure that they receive the treatment that they need, but also the justice that they deserve. It's critical as a doctor to bear witness to the crimes that I saw unfolding and the crimes that being committed against my patients.